exactly. So there's
Right,
lots
there's
of
a
different
lot
factors.
in that
So,
one.
Yeah,
because
so,
I mean, the situation could be that they had a much higher income level that they lost.
Or they spent.
And now
And now now they're deeply in debt.
Not anymore, thank you.
budget counseling,
Yeah.
you know, there's also this assumption that
Right.
budget counseling is gonna be the ticket that gets you out of debt.
Right. Not always.
So,
Right.
again, when we talk about the services and strategies that we're gonna develop, this is a strategy this is rather a service. So services are something that's targeted at a family level, and a strategy is more of like a community level approach that we're gonna use. So, this service is, you know, a lot of assumptions fall with that, okay? How about this second example, distribute monthly food boxes?
That's, I mean, like they actually need to be distributed. That's
That it's gonna be, that distributing is gonna be helpful for people in need, yeah. That, you know, another assumption could be that like, people need food at least once a month. I mean, you know.
Once a month means it's not perishable, and maybe I
Yeah.
need perishable food.
Yeah.
Maybe I need lettuce, not
Or milk.
cans of
Exactly.
soup or
So
milk or cheese.
There's lots of, and
Right.
that,
Is that
you know.
something you could refer them to the food bank for? 'Cause
Yeah,
they're-
exactly, and that's another thing is that in our assessment process, we'd be looking to see, you know, we're assessing our community
our
resources.
strength?
This isn't necessarily something that we would do,
Yeah.
but yeah, we would be making that connection. How about that third example that's there?
Oh, yeah, that one is probably never.
Create a community coalition, that sounds fun, to work with employers who do not give jobs to local residents.
How do you even find
Well,
that out?
that sounds like you're gonna have a fun conversation whenever you get them to the table.
If we get them.
You assume
Yeah.
they'll come to the table.
Yeah, exactly,
You know,
assuming that they're
You're
gonna come.
assuming people that
Yeah.
that if they do that, are going to be willing to talk to you.
You're also, I don't know, you're
that.
assuming that's a problem. Do we know it's a problem?
Right, and we're assuming that local people have the skills needed
I
to
was
fill
gonna
those
say,
jobs.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
right.
They're not
you know, like Sarah was talking about earlier, and
Right.
Libby, if you're not a doctor, you're not getting hired. So, you know,
Right.
we get the hospital to the table and we say you're not employing anybody locally, even though they don't have the right
Who has
credentials.
experience
I
in
mean,
cancer?
yeah.
And the same thing, they did create a community coalition in Libby. And they got all these partners to come and to the table, and I declined for good reason.
Yeah.
Because it's a joke. I mean, and that's what it was. The people that did go said, no, it's not gonna
It's
last.
not,
This
yeah.
this group is going to dissolve because they weren't focusing on the needs, and the needs at the time was after mental health shut down.
Yeah.
We needed a provider, a prescriber, a psychiatrist. Local providers didn't want that. So their coalition was to go and say, how can we help these people? But nobody wanted to talk about that issue.
Yeah. And that's what we have to make sure of too, when we're articulating what our outcomes are gonna be. It has to be something that's gonna resonate with the people that we need to support that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sounds like it's more of a union-related issue.
It's a union related, yeah, we're talking about Detroit, so again,
Wow.
you know, we have lots of different ideas here about what some of these assumptions are, and throughout the discussion, I think it's also important to remember that we have to make some assumptions, you know,
Right.
some assumptions are spot on, and some of them have unintended messages, so we just need to make sure that we're being really intentional with the way that we word things and we put it out there, because we want to make sure that we are soliciting the support of partners that are critical, and that we're supporting our primary customers and not alienating them with making gross assumptions about, you know, limitations that they have or needs that we have kind of identified as, you know, something that they might value, okay? So let's think about this second part of the activity here, okay? This again isn't in your book, but Cav Scribe, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Okay, so let's think about this scenario. Your agency has just received a modest sum of money to address problems related to food insecurity. What would you do? You get a little bit of money, you get to address issues related to food insecurity. You know, one idea, you could conduct a food drive and use that money to get the plastic bins to go out and to get it, and, you know, partner with other
We need
organizations.
a needs
I mean, that could
assessment,
be,
don't
Or a roundup campaign for the local food bank. It's
Roundup?
going on right now, yeah, round up your dollar.
Round up your dollar?
Yeah,
Okay.
I just did
So
that.
you use like the money then as marketing materials to help promote
Yeah.
the roundup for advertising about this promotion to hopefully, kind of like gambling, invest some money with the hope that you're gonna have a return on that investment that's gonna exceed the amount of that original
I mean,
investment. So
nonprofits are MBA oriented now.
so we're gonna, so those are good. Another idea here would be to develop like a skills program, so to help about budgeting, like food purchasing, how to use, like bring in the coupon lady and have the coupon lady, teach us how to more effectively shop. And so there's different levels, so if you wanna just put down like Roundup and coupon lady.
Snap nutrition. Would that be?
Yeah, exactly, the nutritional class where it talks about, how to shop and get nutritional foods on a budget, so bringing in somebody, a nutritionist to help with that. And again, Sean had mentioned assisting another agency with working on stuff, so. We've had, so the Roundup, the coupon
Nutrition.
lady, and then, how about the nutritionist? I just want to point out, really, that we can have, again, the 3 different levels of response with the strategies that we develop. And so rounding up would be something that would be part of a community effort, because that's something that we're going to be working in collaboration with another entity. The coupon lady is going to provide some individual kind of one-on-one guidance. So we might say that that's a family level skill, because her guidance is going to be, dictated by how many people are in your household. If you have special dietary needs, that type of guidance will be provided there. So that would be a family level need. And then the nutritionist coming in is going to be more of an agency level need, because
Right.
that's something that would be open to everyone, and that would not necessarily be catered to an individual situation. So we're kind of we might be stretching a little bit with some of these,
Right.
but the importance here is to recognize that our strategies, as we develop them, we have to think about, again, the levels that we have. So we have the family, agency, community, you have it on the front page of your manual. That's always gonna be what we come back to, okay? So, I talked already a little bit about how services are something that are targeted towards families, and strategies is more of the community-based focus. Thank you, that's all we needed. I appreciate it. So, on page number 44, we're gonna just consider what our strategy might be for we have our family level here, for this is our housing, so what could our service
What was
be
your outcome?
that would be appropriate?
Yeah, what outcome are we
That
working on?
families have-
We're working on families have, I haven't been able to test.
Oh, families have
monitor,
access,
Yep,
right.
families have access, yep, so.
So provide free housing for everyone. Is that service? Is that the, what, no?
Okay. Providing free access is an awesome idea, and so, but what I want to think about right now is, we want to make sure that what we're doing is brainstorming some ideas of services that help us move towards that outcome. So opening that up to everybody, I mean, realistically, it's not something that we would be able to do. So if you guys have maybe some other ideas that, in addition to opening it up to everybody, Sean, you had identified different strategies that you employ to help get people access
Right.
to affordable housing. Can you tell us again about what those strategies were? Or the
Well, you could say
services?
provide programs or services that, I would say overcome barriers of first month's rent and deposit assistance
Okay.
that are sometimes the main issue for people getting into affordable housing.
Okay,
So overcoming
Especially-
barriers is huge.
yeah,
It's
so.
a great service.
Okay.
Overcoming, I would say, financial barriers that prevent people.
Okay, so, so that could be then, I mean, what we could do for our statement there could be, our service is to provide, financial assistance
I thought you were gonna say.
to help overcome barriers of access to affordable housing. Is that?
I
What do
like
you
it.
guys think makes the most sense for that particular strategy?
I think you restated our need and our outcome,
Okay.
which is really nice.
Which is good, you don't wanna be putting those back
Right.
in there, so thanks, yeah. So what we could say is our service is to provide,
Economic
deposit and
assistance.
rental assistance.
Yeah, that's
Economic
specific, right.
assistance. Yeah, there you go.
Right.
Provide
Deposit,
financial
that's perfect.
assistance.
Financial assistance, yeah. Keeps it
They have-
simple and.
Gosh, nutshell it, geez,
Yep.
guys.
That's the fun part.
So what do we say, provide financial assistance?
Yep.
F-I-N.
Financial.
I hate you just a little.
I'm sorry. I'm just glad I'm
Provide
not,
financial assistance
I'd be like breaking.
to access housing.
Mhm. Yeah, access, let's put that in there, to access.
Okay, so what's cool here is that we
Growing.
started off with our mission that gave us our foundation, and in this pretend logic model that we're building today, our mission is awesome and succinct and clearly stated. We moved on to identifying what the need was, which was the lack of access to affordable housing. We decided we wanted to make sure that people had access to it. So, and Corey articulated, kind of what does access mean. Sean further defined it, and we as a group decided that the service that would be the most appropriate on that family level is going to be provide financial assistance to access housing. Cool?
Oh, got it.
Okay, so look at that, N, S, O, and M are represented there, so. Let's look at services and outputs, okay? So this is on page 45. We have to further the idea right now that there's a difference between what we do, which is a service, and what happens to the people as a result of what we do, okay? Can somebody read the first paragraph, please?
Well, oh, go ahead. Lisa.
While CAAs are held accountable for producing outcomes, they also must demonstrate they have the capacity to achieve their results through effective and efficient management and delivery of services.
Okay.
Wow.
And so that's important because we want to make sure that when we articulate what happens, we're evaluating outcomes, which is the change, accomplishing something, or the product of our efforts, okay? So that's what an outcome would be, okay? An output is something that's just the act of the service. It's doing something, it's the process that's involved with it, okay? So we see here that when we talk about the process of the service, the quantity of the work produced by the service or other qualifiers regarding the service, we're talking about the output, okay? So that's like making of the Whoppers at Burger King is the process, and the outcome is that, X amount of people are served a Whopper. So that's the outcome. So we want to look at outcome as change, output is the service of doing something. Okay, and that it can be kind of a confusing or tricky point that's there. Does anybody have questions about that?
Can we say that specifically to what Sean put as the service? So the service is that we're providing the money, and the outcome is that more people are in housing.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Yep, that's exactly it. So measuring outputs helps us kind of define the scope of what it is that we're doing, and outcomes helps us really define what the results of those services are, okay? So with outputs, we're gonna look at
Money.
the units of service, the number of people that are served,
Right.
that type of stuff. Again, we're looking at a process versus with outcomes, we're looking at the actual change. Let's look at page number 46 right now. We're gonna kind of cruise through this because, again, just for the sake of time, we wanna keep plugging forward so that we're driving during the light hours and moving in that direction. Here we're gonna have an opportunity to look at outcomes and outputs. I think that a really helpful spot for us to start is to be looking at the weatherization piece. So if you look over in that right column, the second one down is weatherization. So The statements below contain both outcomes and outputs for each program. We have to write OC or OP next to them. So a new furnace is installed in a home. Is that gonna be an outcome or an output?
Output, it seems, no?
Okay.
OP, that's right. As an output, because that's something that's a process, that's something that happened, that not necessarily a change. So how about homes are insulated to R18?
Output.
Kitchen appliances repaired or replaced?
Ditto.
New thermostat installed?
Output.
Electric utilization, KKW decreased in
Oh.
Roma?
Orange County.
Outcome.
Orange County.
Gas consumption, CCF down.
Ocean City.
Outcome, yep. Arrearages were eliminated.
Outcome.
Energy expenditures were reduced.
Outcome.
Okay. And value of house rises.
Outcome.
Awesome. So we're seeing here kind of that concept of output
Mm-hmm.
versus outcome. Those are really important distinctions. Let's look at, let's see, does anybody else have one that they really want to,
Conflict management.
conflict
Sure.
management
That
program?
would be hard.
Youths are involved in fewer conflicts.
Outcome.
That's an outcome. Discussion sessions explore experiences with stereotyping and
Output.
cultural differences. Output. Youth display greater tolerance of differing opinions of view.
Outcome.
Outcome.
Youth practice communication and negotiation skills.
Output.
Youth report more willingness
Oh,
to have
outcome.
friends with backgrounds different from their own.
Got it.
Outcome.
Outcome.
Okay. Anybody have
Oh.
questions on output and outcome? Okay. Process and product.
That's good.
Yep. What do we
Okay.
want to do? How do we do it?
So now we're going to be moving into the idea of proxy outcomes. This can be a little bit confusing, but we're going to try to simplify it. Sometimes we have to use an output in view of an outcome, okay? And that happens when it would be difficult for us to measure the outcome, okay? So, like the example that's here on page number 47 is senior citizens get like Meals on Wheels, okay? So you're getting Meals on Wheels. Are we gonna do a baseline assessment of, are you hungry right now? And then afterwards, are you no longer hungry? What was your protein level in your blood prior to the consumption of this? What is your protein level now? So
Yeah.
it's unrealistic for us to be making collecting that kind of outcome data and measuring change in that way. So what we have to do instead is we have to rely on research. And there is enough research available that shows that people who have received and consumed, people within a specific target population, which Meals on Wheels has eligibility criteria, people within that criteria who receive it have a change and get these positive results. So research is there that supports that positive change occurs as a result of the receipt of this meal. Okay, so what we have to do is base off of that. We have enough data out there to support that. We know that it's not going to be feasible to collect data otherwise. And we know that research determines, again, that that specific group is going to be the one that has changed over time. So the count of people receiving the meals, not the number of meals provided, is the most important part, because we want to make sure that it's the number of people who have received the meals, not the meals that, the number of meals that have been delivered. So we get to have a proxy outcome, which is, again, just that an output standing in lieu of an outcome in this situation for the real outcome of reduced hunger, okay? So the number of meals is going to be your output, because that's the process, that's what you're producing. Number of people with decreased hunger is going to be your outcome. We can't calculate that. It's not realistic for us to try to do that, but evidence supports the fact that people who get the meals have reduced in hunger. So the number of people receiving the meals is the proxy outcome. Yes?
So that would help even drive a fiscal thing? Because if you're not trying to feed me 3 times a day, but trying to feed 3 people, it might be more cost effective to find 3 people than get 3 meals to me.
Right, yeah.
So it's more than just outcome, how you support it.
How you support, yep, yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Trust me,
So,
get through this.
you know, in these cases, research supports that causative relationship between